Okay, so hello and welcome everyone. My name's Eloisa Ramos and I am here with my friends and daughter. Hi, Connie.
Hi.
Hi, Sonia.
Hi.
Hi, Teresa.
Hello.
So we are studying the text of A Course in Miracles, and we are on chapter 3, The Innocent Perception. And we left off on section 6, Judgment and the Authority Problem. So I'm going to start with the first paragraph. We have already discussed the last judgment, but in insufficient detail. After the last judgment, there will be no more. Judgment is symbolic because beyond perception, there is no judgment. When the Bible says, quote, "Judge not that ye be not judged," unquote, it means that if you judge the reality of others, you will be unable to avoid judging your own. Okay, so it's a short paragraph. So remember that the last section we read was titled, Beyond Perception. So it's picking up from there. And the point it's making is that judgment is symbolic. So the Course distinguishes between symbols and content. And content is what is meaningful and real. And symbols are what is not meaningful, okay, but can be interpreted and given any kind of meaning that we want. And so perception uses symbols precisely because we can distort the meaning of things that way. Okay. And that's what makes communication with words so difficult, because the Course says words are symbols twice removed from reality. So, you know, I can mean one thing and then use words, and then someone else will pick up on the words, interpret the words in their own way, and have a completely different meaning, so that the communication is lost in the translation. Or it's, you know, it can be really distorted. So, but the other thing it says is that judge not that ye be not judged. And what it says is that when we judge, if we're going to judge someone else, that judgment is going to also be applied to ourselves. And we tend to think that we can just judge and condemn someone, maybe, and that somehow we are free of that condemnation. That's kind of the idea with projection. We're trying to project guilt onto someone else, trying to make ourselves innocent. But it actually doesn't work that way. Once we judge and once we project, we actually also repress that in our unconscious. And then if we do the same thing that other person did to us, then that judgment is going to apply to us too. So we can't escape our own judgment. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Number 2, Sonia.
The choice to judge rather than to know is the cause of the loss of peace. Judgment is the process on which perception but not knowledge rests. I have discussed this before in terms of the selectivity of perception, pointing out that evaluation is its obvious prerequisite. Judgment always involves rejection. It never emphasizes only the positive aspects of what is judged, whether in you or in others. What has been perceived and rejected, or judged and found wanting, remains in your mind because it has been perceived. One of the illusions from which you suffer is the belief that what you judged against has no effect. This cannot be true unless you also believe that what you judged against does not exist. You evidently do not believe this, or you would not have judged against it. In the end, it does not matter whether your judgment is right or wrong. Either way, you are placing your belief in the unreal. This cannot be avoided in any type of judgment because it implies the belief that reality is yours to select from.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's a lot there on perception. Does anything stand out for you there, Sonia?
Just number 7, one of the illusions from which you suffer is the belief that what you judged against has no effect. That's what you were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yes, exactly. Because we think that projection is going to take care of the problem, of guilt. Okay, well, it doesn't. So it just gets buried, and then it makes it really hard to find later when we're trying to release it. But there's a number of things here. The first line, it says that the choice to judge rather than to know is the cause of the loss of peace. So peace is actually our natural state, the state that we were created. Now it doesn't seem that way because most of the time we are in some kind of internal conflict or, seeing conflict somewhere. But what it's saying here is that if we stop choosing to judge, we're going to just have peace. And it also says that we're also trading the decision to judge. We're trading knowledge. So we're making that decision, that perception is going to serve us better than the truth. Okay, so right off the bat, when we judge, we are actually intending in an unconscious way, maybe, to distort the truth. Somehow we're afraid of the truth. And so we resort to judgment to try to somehow, whatever, cover it up or whatever, because we're afraid of it. We think that that the error that we made is a sin, and that sin is going to, if found out, is going to have punishment from God from it. So judgment, is a process on which perception rests. And evaluation is its obvious prerequisite. So evaluation is the part of the judgment where we compare. And in order to evaluate, we have to perceive separation. We have to see differences. There's no other way to evaluate anything. The simple evaluations that we do every day, when we make, when we go to the grocery store, what type of brand of food, whatever, every little evaluation that we do is going to involve a perception of differences. Otherwise, how could we choose? How could we evaluate? How could we even make a judgment? And the problem with it, wouldn't be such a big deal, except that the judgment always involves rejection. So it never emphasizes only the positive aspects, whether in you or in others. So what it means is that it makes a kind of a split mind, a kind of a dualistic thought system where the good comes paired with the bad. And we get used to that. We say, well, pleasure demands pain. Gain demands loss. So we end up developing a thought system, which we call the ego thought system, that's completely based on scarcity, right? Because, well, no, I can't have pleasure all the time if it comes with pain. Okay, I have to have pain. So, and so I can't have everything, because if I have everything, then someone has to lose everything. I have to take it from someone, or I have to deprive myself of it in order to. So in order to save money, I have to deprive myself from buying what I want. You see, so I have to experience the loss of not having what I want in order to have what I want. So that thought system is really crazy. But it does, fundamentally, it's a scarcity belief. So that's why it says over here that, let's see, it said something about, it used the word want in there. Yes,
Line
right
6.
here. Yeah, line 6. What has been perceived and rejected or judged and found wanting remains in your mind because it has been perceived. Okay. So in order to evaluate, we have to say, okay, well, this is not as good as this. I have to make one thing less good, therefore lacking, than something else. And then pretty soon we do that with so many things that we start doing it to what we think we are. So now we're going to perceive what we are as incomplete. So I'm going to say, well, I'm female, and therefore my other half is male, and I am incomplete without my other half. We start saying things like that. So what we're implying is that we are no longer whole and complete, and now are lacking. So we really distort how we were created, perfect, loving, whole, and we associate it with perception, with how we see ourselves, with how we see others. And that's not knowing ourselves. That's a loss of knowledge of what we truly are. So, and the other thing, is line 10. In the end, it doesn't matter whether your judgment is right or wrong. And boy, do we get stuck on that right and wrong. We really, really, really want to be right. And it says here, in the end, it doesn't even matter, because either way, we're placing our belief in the unreal. So knowledge is real, and anything else, perception, is not real, and that's why it's called a dream. Yes, and then number 12. So this cannot be avoided in any type of judgment, because it implies the belief that reality is yours to select from. So implied in that is the idea that reality is somehow, the way we were created, our reality is somehow not good enough. So we're just going to pick pieces from here and there to, quote unquote, make it better. So God must have done a crappy job, and I'm going to improve upon it in some way. And that's really wishful thinking, but that's what the ego thinks. And we made the ego because that's the belief of separation that implies that somehow reality could not give us specialness. So, forget reality. Let's just go make our own reality separate from God. Yeah. So, any questions there? Yeah, Connie?
So is discernment then really judgment? The word discernment, I mean, that just came up for me.
No, discernment is actually judgment, unless it's Holy Spirit judgment. Okay, so if it's Holy Spirit judgment, remember Holy Spirit is out of time. Then that's discernment, because the Holy Spirit can see the big picture, and it sees the thoughts that are true and it sees the thoughts that are false, and it does not get them confused. Okay, but judgment is based on perception. It's not based on knowledge on knowing the truth. Okay, so judgment is in time. And the judgments that we make in time are basically obscuring the separation between what is true and what is false. And so the discernment would be the process of learning to see, to perceive only what is true with the Holy Spirit, who sees no differences. So Holy Spirit does not evaluate. It does not need to evaluate. It knows that everything in the world here is not true, is not real. What is there to evaluate? One piece of meat at the store is the same as, one piece of fish, as one piece of a vegetable, as one piece of fruit. Okay. It's all the same thing. Does that help, Connie?
Yeah, I have never heard it phrased like that, that discernment is really just coming from the Holy Spirit. Yeah. When you connect with the Holy Spirit, then you get the true
vision. Yeah, vision.
Yeah, vision. Now, I don't know if the piece of meat is the same as the piece of broccoli. That one's a little bit tricky for me to wrap my brain around.
Yes, because they're all physical things, right? And all physical things are a perception of separation. And all separation is a belief in illusion, which the Holy Spirit can recognize to be nothing. So there's nothing to evaluate when it comes to those kind of decisions. That's why, the Holy Spirit guidance says, just leave all the little things to me. Just decide for me. I mean, give me, that prayer in the morning, Holy Spirit, I give you this day to decide for me, for God.
Tell me where to go for what that
yes. So what we're saying is, okay, I don't want to judge today. Okay, I'm going to give it over to you, because there's no point in my little ego thought system judging. Okay.
Yeah.
I would be placing my belief in the unreal unless I give it to the Holy Spirit.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Way to go grocery shopping.
It's all food. Just throw it in the basket.
Try that. Yeah, see where I'm led.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Put a blindfold on and be led. Okay.
Just trust. See what happens. That's funny.
Oh, yeah. Okay, let's see. Number 3.
My turn. You have no idea of the tremendous release and deep peace that comes from meeting yourself and your brothers totally without judgment. When you recognize what you are and what your brothers are, you will realize that judging them in any way is without meaning. In fact, their meaning, their meaning is lost to you precisely because you are judging them. All uncertainty comes from the belief that you are under the coercion of judgment. You do not need judgment to organize your life, and you certainly do not need it to organize yourself. In the presence of knowledge, all judgment is automatically suspended, and this is the process that enables recognition to replace perception.
Okay. Yeah. Anything that stands out, Connie?
Oh, I just love that first sentence. Just, oof, beautiful.
Yeah.
Or, you can't even see them if there's any sort of judgment in your brother. Yeah, you're just missing the whole, all of it.
Yes, because we'll get stuck in the evaluation. We'll get stuck in the seeing the differences. And once we get stuck in noticing and paying attention and, being impressed by those differences, we have lost the sense of oneness. And so the relationship is actually not really a relationship. It's actually just sort of, it's just a one-sided kind of, what I think about you is what you are, so I'm always right. because I don't even, the closed mind, the mind can become very close so that I completely miss any information coming in that would contradict what I think, what I have judged and evaluated that you are. So yeah. And of course that comes with a lot of uncertainty, because now I have just stories that I've made up about you without knowing you, and also stories about myself, because if I am not open to knowing you as you are, I am not going to know myself as I am. So who knows what things I'm making up about myself and other people. And that's where all the uncertainty and the fear comes, because pretty soon we really start feeling like, oh man, I don't know anything, but that's so embarrassing and shameful that I have to pretend like I do know, so pretty soon it just, it becomes like more and more like what's the word? A pathos. The mind becomes, noticeably more sick. Not that there's a level of degrees in sickness, but you know what I'm saying? The symptoms become diagnosable now. Yeah.
The coercion of judgment. That's the belief that we are under the coercion of judgment. That's kind of a powerful statement.
Well, yes. So once we evaluate and we make our judgments right and your judgments wrong, we're going to believe them to be true. And once we believe them to be true, they become, you could think of them as templates, or they become the rules by which we live by, and that's where the coercion comes from, like, oh no, well, I grew up being a nice girl, and a nice girl doesn't do this, or I'm a bad girl and a bad girl does this. So that's what I go and do, because remember that behavior comes from perception. So the way that I perceive myself, I'm going to, and it's based on those evaluations and judgments, those are going to take control of my behavior unconsciously. and I'm going to behave to fit into those patterns, because that's how I protect that thought system from change. And that's how I imprison myself in those particular behaviors. You know, sometimes we really want to change our behavior and we can't, because it's so stuck to those ideas. We have to go back and change those ideas to be free for the behavior to change. And most of the time, you know, think of children, most of the time the emphasis is on changing the behavior of the child and not going back to the perception of how is this child perceiving himself, that he's doing what he's doing, you know, and helping them to change how they're seeing themselves and how they're seeing others and how they're seeing the world, and, you know, the whole thing. And it's interesting because it says we do not need the judgment to organize our life. And that can seem really strange. Like, of course I need my judgments. How am I going to decide anything? But what it says is that in the presence of knowledge, all judgment is automatically suspended. Okay. This is a process that enables recognition to replace perception. So so we will be functioning in the present moment, making decisions based on recognition that are just obvious. It's like, well, yes, of course. You know, I recognize that's a good idea. Yeah, let's do that. You know, instead of, oh, yes, this is going to give me a really great tax cut. Let's go do that. You know, or something like that.
That's actually the lesson for today.
Is it?
As I do not perceive my own best interests.
Yeah, I think I know what my best interest is, right? I should be saving taxes. Okay, well, that's a judgment. I have made that evaluation, and then I obey it as if that was God, right? So my behavior just follows that. And so that's the coercion. It uses the word. Yeah, coercion, you know, like I'm forced. Well, if I want to hold on to my judgments, I'm going to be forced to follow them.
I have a question. Could you almost say then that the coercion, like the judgment that we quote unquote feel coerced by, we're making that into its own identity of authority? And
yeah.
So basically we're giving it the power to control us. Yeah,
it becomes false authority, or it can become a false idol that we worship literally. You know, God forbid I don't, you know, do my daily whatever I do. You know, I don't take my daily run.
Like a ritual. We're making those.
Exactly. Yeah, it becomes a ritual, and then you become scared that if I don't do it, something bad's going to happen to me. So it becomes almost like a superstition kind of a thing. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, they're all just substitutes for knowledge, right? When we start judging, and it's a substitute for God. So yeah. Okay. Number 4, Teresa.
You are very fearful of everything you have perceived but have refused to accept. You believe that because you have refused to accept it, you have lost control over it. This is why you see it in nightmares or in pleasant disguises in what seem to be your happier dreams. Nothing that you have refused to accept can be brought into awareness. It is not dangerous in itself, but you have made it seem dangerous to you.
Yeah, so the thing about judgment is that it has the projection element to it, and it becomes a way to dissociate from things that we don't want to see in ourselves. So we throw them outside and see them in someone else. And that once we do that, you know, like for example, the pandemic, okay, COVID, we become very afraid of it. You know, it's a tiny little virus, and we want to keep it out there, away from us, but it could not be out there if our own thought system had not projected it out there. So it feels like we have lost control over it, and we're trying very hard to control it, but it really feels like we don't have any control. You know, that's what's so scary about it. And so any of the thoughts that we project and believe that are not coming from our mind, that is the only causal level, become fearful because they seem to be separate from us, and therefore we can't control anything that's separate from us. So the first step in releasing some of these fearful things is always to come back to the mind, to undo, because that's the belief in magic, making something cause that's not mind. So we always have to take responsibility and put the mind back at the level of cause, because we can always change our mind, okay? And if that's the only level of cause, then there's nothing that is separate from us. There's nothing that is out there that can harm us. I mean, that's the main upside down thinking that has to be reversed in order to release fear. And also trust, because it gets closer to remembering truth. Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, so number 5, it is not dangerous in itself, but you have made it seem dangerous to you. Yeah, because we've given it causality. So, and we forget that the sickness is in the mind. So, you know, with a virus, well, we think, well, no, it makes the body sick. And the Course is very clear, is the body cannot be sick. The body is not real. Only mind is real. So, and then on top of that, we're making, you know, something that's physical, matter, causal. And the Course says that's the source of all symptoms. So that's the virus right there. Okay, so anything there? Okay, number 5, when you feel tired, it is because you have judged yourself as capable of being tired. When you laugh at someone, it is because you have judged him as unworthy. When you laugh at yourself, you must laugh at others, if only because you cannot tolerate the idea of being more unworthy than they are. All this makes you feel tired because it is essentially disheartening. You are not really capable of being tired, but you are very capable of wearying yourself. The strain of constant judgment is virtually intolerable. It is curious that an ability so debilitating would be so deeply cherished. Yet, if you wish to be the author of reality, you will insist on holding on to judgment. You will also regard judgment with fear, believing that it will someday be used against you. This belief can exist only to the extent that you believe in the efficacy of judgment as a weapon of defense for your own authority. Okay. Yeah. All right. Anything there, Connie? You kind of, yeah.
It's just a great paragraph. Yeah, I especially resonate, that tired thing. There's several things, but I'll let you have at it. The strain of constant judgment is what makes me feel weary. I'm not really tired. It's that judgment is just debilitating.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to make that distinction between the two there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And also, it says that judging is an ability, which is interesting because it says, yeah, when you feel tired, it's because you have judged yourself as capable of being tired. And over here it says, I uses the word ability. Let's see.
Number 7. It is
yes.
Curious.
Mm-hmm.
In sentence 7.
7. It is curious that an ability so debilitating will be so deeply cherished. So what it means is that judgment is really not part of our true nature, because remember what it said in the first paragraph is that it's a loss of peace. And our true nature is peace. So we actually taught ourselves this ability to judge, and it took away our peace. And we're very attached to this ability, I guess, because we nurtured it so well. Let's see. Because we really think that it has power to condemn. Okay, having grown up with a Catholic family and a Catholic mother, and she was a really good mother, but underneath it there was a lot of what was the wording, kind of like like she'd say, oh, gosh, I put all those clothes out to dry, and it's getting cloudy, so she'll say something like, they need to be brought in, or something like that, instead of just saying, can you go and get those clothes for me? So it would mean that I would have to sit there and say, okay, she wants me to get those clothes, but she's not telling me to. Okay, so if I don't go get them, I'm going to feel guilty for not doing that for her. Okay, and if I do get them, I'm going to do it without really wanting to. So either way, I'm in conflict. So anyway, the point is that that the inner conflict that judgment induces is what is really so debilitating, and it is so tiring, because when our mind is in conflict, it can't rest. It's in constant, like, trying to resolve, trying to reconcile, trying to resolve this conflict. Oh my gosh. And then it talks about laughing. Now, when it talks about laughing, it's not talking about like laughing at a joke. It's talking about at someone. So it's not talking about laughing with someone at a joke, okay? It's when you laugh at someone because you have evaluated them, you've judged them in some way as, dumb or not good enough in some way, unworthy. And so we're actually looking down at them. And in order to look down on someone, we have to have judged them in some way, lacking and unworthy. And when you laugh at yourself, you must laugh at others. So we must have already judged ourselves unworthy and lacking, or we couldn't possibly be seeing that in others. Okay. And so then we also end up, laughing at ourselves. We end up deprecating ourselves. Let's see, because you cannot tolerate the idea of being more unworthy than they are. Well, because there's another judgment there that, oh my God, I'm actually less worthy than them, and they're already unworthy. I'm already laughing at them. So how low can we go? And that's what Connie was saying, is it becomes so intolerable. The judgment becomes so intolerable. So yeah, no, this makes you feel tired. It's disheartening. So let's see. Number 9, you will also regard judgment with fear, because see, number 8, this is why this is titled the judgment and the authority problem, because it says, yet if you wish to be the author of reality, you will insist on holding on to judgment. Okay, so if I want to make my judgments true and be right, that's wishing to be the author of reality. Okay, no, it's not like that. It's this way because I say so. Okay. And no one will dare challenge you. They know you're wrong, but they're not going to challenge you. Because it's a delusion. You want to be author of reality, and you want to say, no, things are not the way they are. They're the way that I want them to be. So we're kind of putting blinders, and we're going to hold on to judgment for that reason. But also, we're going to fear judgment, because if I think that my judgment has power to change reality and make it the way I want, well, then I'm going to be afraid of other people judging me, because I'm going to believe that it's going to have power to make me what they have judged me to be. Okay, so my mind is going to be very easily manipulated, and I'm not going to be able to, what's the word? I'm not going to be able to not take judgments that are negative about me seriously. I'm going to take them seriously. And I'm going to be hurt. I'm going to feel really hurt, because, people can say a lot of cruel things. And of course, they're not talking about me. They're just upset with themselves, and they're projecting. Okay, but if I accept those projections, because I also want other people to accept my projections, I'm going to be afraid, because I'm going to believe those judgments are true about me. Yeah, and that's only going to be true to the extent that I believe in the efficacy of judgment as a weapon of defense for your own authority. Yeah. Yeah. So, Connie?
So in that, laughing at, like, a lot of times I will catch myself just doing something really silly, at least one time a day. And yeah, so I'm snickering, but I'm just kind of tripping off of something I've done, and it kind of is enjoyment. But is that really, or is there something else there?
Yeah, so you have
thinking I see something, and then noticing, oh, I really didn't see it like that, and then just kind of just laughing.
Yes, so it depends if you notice that there's judgment there or not. Okay, because sometimes we can just laugh at perception, because we recognize, oh my gosh, I really, really thought that was true, and it's not. Okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
So without judgment. Yeah. Okay. That's helpful.
Yeah.
But sometimes too, I will just, like in meetings, you know, someone will be talking about stuff they've done and I'm laughing with them because I just think, oh God, yeah, I do that stuff too all the time. I laugh a lot in the meetings because of people talking about their stuff.
That's right. So that just means that you're not taking the error seriously. Okay. But when we evaluate and take the error seriously, we're going to judge it and we're going to be laughing at, like, oh my gosh, how could you be so stupid? You know, something like that. Like, yeah. So it's got a different, yeah, or just, you know, under your breath, you'll say like, oh, I'm so dumb, you know, and, you know, just like, you know, I hear people, you know, do that. And my mom would do that. You know, she had Alzheimer's and she would kind of do that because she started losing her memory, but she would take it personally. Do you see what I'm saying? When we take our mistakes and our forgetting personally, yeah, we're taking it seriously. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Is it my turn? No. Whose turn is it? I don't remember. Okay, Teresa.
I can go, but I think it's Sonia's turn.
Oh, it's Sonia's. Okay.
Yeah.
God offers only mercy. Your words should reflect only mercy because that is what you have received and that is what you should give. Justice is a temporary expedient or an attempt to teach you the meaning of mercy. It is judgmental only because you are capable of injustice.
Yeah, so capable of injustice is that we're unforgiving. So we are capable of being very unforgiving. And then we justify attack based on that. And so, I mean, justice is trying to say it's an attempt to teach us the meaning of mercy. So to be forgiving is to be merciful. So you know, we're really tough on ourselves. So if, you know, if I forget something, doggone it, you know, I really wanted to remember that and I still forgot, you know. and if I'm not kind to myself and recognize that, yeah, you know, there's nothing stable about my perception. There's nothing stable about my memory, you know. And if I want it to be, if I want to say, no, I should be remembering everything. I should have remembered that. That's trying to make my judgment of how things should be, how quote unquote reality should be. And I'm not going to be very forgiving. I'm not going to be very merciful because I'm going to want to hold myself accountable to this ideal, to this standard. That's not possible. It's not reachable because perception is imperfect. It's unstable because it's not knowledge. And to try to make it into authority means that I'm going to have really high expectations of it because I want it to be perfect. And it's never going to be perfect. And so, and that's why I can see that if I don't offer mercy, then I am making God out as authority. I'm making out God as authority to be unloving. Okay. Because I'm saying no, you know, perception should be perfect. I'm trying to make perception authority to me as my own ego thought system. And I'm saying that's God. Okay. And therefore God is imperfect. instead of saying, okay, that cannot be God, precisely because it isn't perfect. Okay, so my perception cannot be God. It cannot be perfect because it's not knowledge. Do you see what we're doing with the authority problem? And then we distort what God is in order to make the authority of our own judgments true. Yeah, so, okay. Number 7.
I have spoken of different symptoms, and at that level, there is almost endless variation. There is, however, only one cause for all of them, the authority problem. This is, quote unquote, the root of all evil. Every symptom the ego makes involves a contradiction in terms, because the mind is split between the ego and the Holy Spirit, so that whatever the ego makes is incomplete and contradictory. This untenable position is the result of the authority problem, which, because it accepts the one inconceivable thought as its premise, can produce only ideas that are inconceivable.
Okay, so, okay. So this is about the contradiction that the ego thought system makes. Because we are trying to reconcile knowledge and perception. Okay, and the Course talks about bringing truth into the illusion, and that's what we're trying to do. Okay, we're trying to be the author of reality instead of saying, no, God already made reality, it's truth, and it doesn't have to be made, it's created, it's eternal, it's okay. If I try to make reality into how I think things should be, and I'm going to use judgment and perception, I'm going to make a world of contradiction, because I'm projecting all of these meaningless ideas. Once there's contradiction, it's meaningless. And then my meaningless thoughts are projected, and I see a meaningless world. Okay, and that's a symbolic of a split mind between the ego and the Holy Spirit. And because the ego uses judgment, everything it makes, like I was saying before, is incomplete because it involves rejection. So we're going to hold both the part that we rejected and the part that we accepted and believe to be good. We're going to be holding both the good and the bad, which makes contradiction. And so it gets very confusing. Because we have accepted the one inconceivable thought as its premise, that the mind can hold both the ego and the Holy Spirit. It cannot hold both. Yeah. Okay, any question on that? Okay, number 8, Teresa?
The issue of authority is really a question of authorship. When you have an authority problem, it is always because you believe you are the author of yourself and project your delusion onto others. You then perceive the situation as one in which others are literally fighting you for your authorship. This is the fundamental error of all those who believe they have usurped the power of God. This belief is very frightening to them, but hardly troubles God. He is, however, eager to undo it, not to punish his children, but only because he knows that it makes them unhappy. God's creations are given their true authorship, but you prefer to be anonymous when you choose to separate yourself from your author. Being uncertain of your true authorship, you believe that your creation was anonymous. This leaves you in a position where it sounds meaningful to believe that you created yourself. The dispute over authorship has left such uncertainty in your mind that it may even doubt whether you really exist at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, you can see that last sentence sometimes. You can see it like in little children, when they close their eyes and they think that they're gone. They, or when they can't see you and then they think, oh yeah, you're completely gone. Because the belief is that that seeing is creative, that my eyes are creative. So all I have to do is see it and it becomes real, So, okay. So authority and authorship. So it's about who is the creator of reality. So if we have an authority problem, it's because we are believing that we have authored ourselves. We've made ourselves. And we're going to see that, we're going to project that and also see that others create themselves, make themselves. Let's see. And if this is the case, then every single one is a mini God unto themselves, self-creating mini gods, okay? And how many gods can you have? Well, you're going to have to battle for authority because clearly God is the one that's on top. So there's going to be a lot of competition for position, a lot of competition for being right, a lot of competition for power, for wealth, for, well, everything literally that we see in the world. And this is a fundamental error of those who believe they have usurped the power of God. So once we believe that we are self-created, we're going to believe that the creative power, because we believe we're separate from God, we must have taken it from God. And of course, that's frightening, because I must be greater than God now if I was able to take God's power away. And oh my God, I better be careful what I think and do because I'm greater than God, let's see. And it makes me unhappy because I would rather be right than happy. So we don't have to self-create because God's creations are given their true authorship. But you prefer to be anonymous. So if we don't accept that our true creator is God and that we are also creative because we are given that from God, then we're going to have to kind of erase that and say, okay, well, yeah, that's not part of my identity. So I'm just an anonymous author of myself. Okay. Because I'm not going to know my origin exactly. I'm not going to be certain of how the heck did I get here? Okay. If God didn't create me, I mean, I'm going to have to come up with some kind of belief system. And I'm not going to be certain of my true authorship. And so, what the heck? I'll just say that I created myself. like like, okay, and who was there first? Which self was there first to create yourself? um, yeah. So anyway, the other thing that's interesting about line 10, it says you may even doubt whether you really exist at all. I remember visiting mental hospital one time, and there were two patients that I noticed as I was waiting to meet with a person I went to see. There were two persons kind of just waiting, like in the hallway, just very indiscreetly, just sort of, even their body posture was sort of like a little fly on the wall kind of thing. But but I could see them, and I mean, I didn't, what's the word? But the thing about it is that they could see that I could see them. So they were very aware of everything that was going on around them, but they made themselves very inconspicuous. So, there were orderlies here and there and people chatting and everything, but they were all there were two. There was a young man and a young woman. And so what was interesting is that when I started visiting with a person that I went to see, the young man came into the same room and started kind of playing around with the TV and stuff. And then we started talking. We just started talking, and he was really nice. We started chatting, and pretty soon this other young woman came in too. And they started talking, and then pretty soon they had a whole conversation going with each other, but it was very interesting to me that in the midst of all this activity, there were these two young people. They were in separate places, but then they started talking to each other, and they were saying like, oh yes, I saw you when you da 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 da. And then the other one said, oh yes, and I saw you when you were da 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 da. So they started making this connection based on the idea that they're not seen, but they can see. You know what I'm saying? It kind of reminded me of this, that you may even doubt whether you really exist at all. And so it's almost as if when they are seen, then all of a sudden they exist. But if they're not seen, if they're not given attention, it's like they don't exist, like they disappear, It was kind of interesting. So yeah, Connie?
Yeah, that line about feeling anonymous or sensing, that's that one sentence. Believe your creation was anonymous. Yeah, sometimes I think, well, maybe God just spewed us all out. and I am anonymous. It's like, ugh, I do feel like I'm just an anonymous thing here.
Oh, yes. So when you say an anonymous thing, it implies that you're an object, just like an object, like any other object, like this glass case.
I'm a thing here that God's viewed out.
Yes, except that God does not make things, does not make objects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to bridge that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's part of the belief system, is that we're a body and bodies are objects. Mm-hmm. And you see that in a lot of the relationships where we treat each other like objects, right? And when we judge people, that's what we're doing. We're judging them like, objects, like based on what we see as differences, kind of like at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And it's part of the consumer society that we've already trained ourselves to kind of judge worthiness and value based on what we think is going to meet our needs best, or is going to be useful you know, for us to get ahead in our career or whatever. So we end up using relationships to extract benefit from an object and completely not see the true creation of what we are and what everyone else is. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, and it doesn't feel good when someone treats you that way. I mean, we're all like, hey, I'm not an object, okay?
Yeah.
So let's see, number 9. Only those who give over all desire to reject can know that their own rejection is impossible. You have not usurped the power of God, but you have lost it. Fortunately, to lose something does not mean that it has gone. It merely means that you do not remember where it is. Its existence does not depend on your ability to identify it or even to place it. It is possible to look on reality without judgment and merely know that it is there. Okay, so line number 6 reminds me of, you know, it is possible to know that someone loves me without judging that it is so. And because I just know it. Mm-hmm. I don't have to say, well, they love me because, you know, I take care of them and, you know, I do this for them, I do that for them. So it's not a love that is based on a transaction, on an exchange of something. So it takes the object out of it. So it's a knowing, it's a recognition. Yeah. So the desire to reject, line 9. And you know, rejection is a very, can be a very difficult thing. I know, like for, you know, teenage years, that all the peer pressure to fit in and to be accepted, that's a really big deal there. So when we judge, we are believing that we have power to make people different and less than others and ourselves. And so we feel that we can be rejected too, that we can be somehow unworthy, not valuable, not good enough. And the weird thing about it, it's not so weird, it kind of makes sense actually, is that if we hold on to the desire to reject and judge, and we judge, it's precisely because we're trying to compensate for having bought into judgments that said we were lacking. Okay, so the way that we try to make ourselves feel worthy is by making others feel unworthy. Do you see how that's a compensation? So some of the, you know, some of the stuff we see, like comments, you know, when people are really mean to each other, and they really put each other down, it's a way for them to try to feel better about themselves, because they don't feel good about themselves to begin with. So it kind of feeds, it's a loop that kind of feeds on itself. The more we judge, the more we need to judge. because the more afraid we're going to be of others judging us and taking it seriously. And we're going to need to compensate because it's intolerable. It's interesting that it says that, that judgment is not usurping the power of God, but it's actually misplacing it, that we have lost it. We've misplaced it because we have lost the recognition of where true power resides and where it comes from and why true power is infinite, because of its source and that it's loving. So with judgment, we tend to think that power is associated with attack, with bullying, with domination, with aggressiveness, with ambition, with force. And that's not power. That's actually weakness. And that's why the Course says, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. Because I'm going to feel defenseless and vulnerable the more that I use judgment to attack. Because then I'm going to be afraid I'm going to be attacked in retaliation. And so ultimately, I mean, our true power is love, and our true power is our true nature and the recognition of our true authorship, which judgment completely obscures. Okay, so number 10.
I think it's Sonia.
Sonia, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Peace is a natural heritage of spirit. Everyone is free to refuse to accept his inheritance, but he is not free to establish what his inheritance is. The problem everyone must decide is the fundamental question of authorship. All fear comes ultimately, and sometimes by way of very devious routes, from the denial of authorship. The offense is never to God, but only to those who deny him. To deny his authorship is to deny yourself the reason for your peace, so that you see yourself only in segments. This strange perception is the authority problem.
Mm-hmm. Anything, Sonia, there?
No, I'm just trying to process the paragraph, so you can go ahead.
Yeah, so number 6, to deny his authorship is to deny yourself the reason for your peace, so that you see yourself only in segments. So when we believe that we are the authors of ourselves, we will see ourselves in segments, precisely because we have used judgment and evaluation to perceive what we are. And that has split, the judgment splits up positives and negatives. And so now we look at ourselves and we can say, well, I'm a pretty reasonable, forgiving person, except when, someone crosses the line and does this. Okay, so I've just split myself into parts, into pieces there. So let's see. So you can say, well, I love peace, but boy, if you say anything about my weight, I'm going to come at you with a hammer, or something like that. So the judgment has a way of giving us a perception of what we've made of ourselves, because it's a reflection of what we think we are. and the positive and the negatives go together, even if we want to separate them. And that's, you know, a lot of the problem with self-esteem, is that we're trying to make ourselves feel good and worthy and have confidence through judgment. And it's completely unstable. Because there's going to be conflict. So that's why we deny ourselves the reason for our peace, which is our natural inheritance as spirit. And it says, you know, we're free to refuse it and choose conflict. That's fine. See ourselves in parts and pieces. You know, a lot of times you can feel those parts. I mean, you don't have to be diagnosed schizophrenic, you know. You can say, well, there's a part of me that wants to do this, but there's another part of me that doesn't, you know. And it comes from judgment, because the fundamental question of authorship has not been clearly accepted. So, yeah. Number 11.
Okay, there is no one who does not feel that he is imprisoned in some way. If this is the result of his own free will, he must regard his will as not free, or the circular reasoning in this position would be quite apparent. Free will must lead to freedom. Judgment always imprisons because it separates segments of reality by the unstable scales of desire. Wishes are not facts. To wish is to imply that willing is not sufficient. Yet no one in his right mind believes that what is wished is as real as what is willed. Instead of, quote unquote, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, say, quote unquote, will ye first the kingdom of heaven? And you have said, quote unquote, I know what I am and I accept my own inheritance.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. What comes up, Connie, for that, with that?
I just like that judgment always imprisons, but that very last suggestion, just I know what I am and I accept my own inheritance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so that would be will, which is in alignment with the will of God, because it's not, it's accepting the truth. So the wishing is, it involves the judgment, because wishes are not facts. As much as we want them to be, okay, they're not facts. So if we desire them bad enough, what will happen is we just make up a fantasy world. And, you know, and we, what?
Could you give an example of that? If we make up a fantasy, if we wish.
Yeah,
you
see it in people with that are diagnosed with mental illness. You know, they'll say, "Oh yes," and you know, I married my my childhood sweetheart. You know, and it's not true, but they believe it. You know, or you know, there's all kinds of fantasies that you can. Well, yeah, you can believe, for example, that that maybe you are maybe you're a smoker, and maybe you believe that that's really cool, and that it makes you more attractive because, you know, you're kind of the image of toughness and manliness, kind of the biker, you know, vibe kind of thing. You know, so you can and then you're going to have a hard time letting go of smoking, because that comes with a whole image of who you think you are and you wish you were and you want to be.
So it's always coming from a place of lack, wishing, I would think.
Yes, it's a non-acceptance of what we are,
Yeah.
because we have judged what we are to be the body or the personality or what we have, our situation, our life situation. And we believe that that's what we are, and we have judged it not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've judged it inferior. We've judged it, unattractive, repulsive, whatever. However, we, maybe we hate ourselves. I mean, I had to come to terms with that when I was in college. I did, and once I realized it, I didn't have to take it so seriously. But, there's things that we grow up thinking, oh, I hate the way I look. I hate my nose. Oh my God, it's too big. You start like just doing this whole judgment thing on, evaluating, comparing. I mean, just, well, we all remember that. Oh my gosh. And that's very, very imprisoning. We become prisoners to our own judgments, to our own thoughts, and then we become afraid of those thoughts because we think that they actually define what we are, that they actually make us who we are, what we are. Yeah. So, ultimately it's because we choose to judge rather than to just forgive. So, okay. So, I inherited the genes from my father and my body has a big nose. Okay. Well, fine. Am I going to hate myself? Am I going to make that part of my body creative? And it's like, oh God, that's going to be a disadvantage in the world of, maybe I want to be a movie star. Okay. And I think, oh no, that's a disadvantage. So I'm going to hate my father for it. I mean, it gets pretty silly, but we take it seriously. And anyway, yeah. Yeah, so yet no one in his right mind believes, that's number 7, believes that what is wished is at least is as real as what is willed. Yeah. So we're not in our right mind if we subscribe to just wishful thinking right off the bat. It's all fantasy. Let's see. Will ye first the kingdom of heaven? So this is interesting. Number 8, instead of seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, say, will ye first the kingdom of heaven? Because it's making a distinction here between saying, oh, the kingdom in heaven is somewhere there and I got to go find it. You see? Where instead it says, will ye first the kingdom of heaven? The kingdom of heaven is my mind and it's the thoughts of God. And when I will, in alignment, when I choose God's will as my will, then that is the kingdom of heaven. Do you see? It's not something that that's separate from me, that I have no control over. It's in my mind. It's the decision-making mind choosing the truth, to accept what comes with being a true creator.